The message came on a Tuesday morning, crashing through Earth's communication networks like a digital tsunami. Every screen on the planet flickered, every radio fell silent. And then the voice spoke in perfect English, though it clearly came from something that had never drawn breath on Earth. Greetings, humans of the third planet. We are the Galactic Confederation. Your species has been observed. Your primitive radio signals have reached our outer territories. By the laws that govern all civilized space, you must now prove your right to exist among the stars. Dr. Sarah Chen was drinking coffee in the NASA control room when the transmission began. She watched the words scroll across her monitor, her cup growing cold in her hands. Around her, technicians and scientists stared at their screens in shock. This was it. First contact. And it wasn't going the way anyone had imagined. You will send your mightiest fleet to the trial of supremacy, the alien voice continued. This trial has tested every species that has ever reached for the stars. Those who prove themselves worthy join our confederation. Those who fail? The pause stretched for long seconds. Those who fail are removed from the galaxy, permanently. The transmission included coordinates to a dead solar system 300 light-years from Earth. It also included something else that made Sarah's blood run cold. Technical specifications for faster-than-light travel. The aliens were giving humanity the tools to reach their own judgment. Within hours, every major government on Earth was in emergency session. The United Nations building in New York buzzed with activity as world leaders tried to process what was happening. Military advisors pulled up every science fiction movie ever made, as if Hollywood might have somehow predicted this moment. "How long do we have?" asked General Morrison, his weathered face pale under the conference room lights. "The transmission says we have 6 months to arrive at the trial location," Sarah replied. She had been chosen to lead the scientific response team, though she wondered if anyone was really qualified for this situation. Based on the technical data they sent, it would take us at least 4 months to build a ship capable of faster-than-light travel. And what exactly are we supposed to bring to this trial? President Martinez leaned forward, her hands clasped tightly on the table. Sarah pulled up the alien transmission on the main screen. "According to this, every species sends their mightiest fleet, their most powerful warships, their greatest military force. The trial tests combat ability, tactical thinking, and overall military strength." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what Earth's military capabilities looked like, compared to beings who could cross the galaxy. Humanity had barely managed to put a permanent base on the moon. Their most advanced weapons were chemical rockets and nuclear warheads. Against aliens who had mastered faster-than-light travel, Earth's military might look like stone spears against laser cannons. "How many ships do other species typically send?" asked Admiral Thompson. Sarah scrolled through the data. Based on the historical records they included, most species send between 50 and 500 ships. The Kronar Empire, which seems to be the current military leader of the Confederation, sent over 2,000 ships when they took their trial 400 years ago. General Morrison slammed his hand on the table. 2,000 ships? We don't even have 2,000 aircraft that could reach orbit, let alone travel between stars. Over the following weeks, the world's greatest minds worked around the clock. Scientists reverse-engineered the alien faster-than-light technology. Engineers designed new ships using principles they barely understood. Military strategists tried to figure out how to make Earth's small fleet look impressive to beings who ruled the galaxy. The project consumed resources from every nation. Factories that had made cars were retooled to build spacecraft components. Scientists who had studied distant stars suddenly found themselves designing weapon systems. The entire planet focused on one goal: building a fleet that could convince the galaxy that humanity deserved to survive. But as the months passed, it became clear that humanity faced an impossible task. The fastest construction timeline put them at building perhaps 20 ships, and even those would be crude compared to what the aliens possessed. The weapon systems were untested. The faster-than-light drives were based on technology humanity had only just learned existed. "We're going to look like children playing with toys," Admiral Thompson said during one of their final planning meetings. 20 ships against species that field thousands? Will be the laughingstock of the galaxy." That's when Sarah made a suggestion that changed everything. "What if we don't try to match their numbers?" she said quietly. "What if we do something different?" The room turned to look at her. General Morrison raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" Every species sends huge fleets because that's what they think shows strength. But what if strength isn't about numbers? What if it's about something else? President Martinez leaned forward. What are you proposing? Sarah took a deep breath. We send one ship, but we make it special. We put everything we have into that one ship. All our technology, all our innovation, all our determination. We show them that humans don't need 1,000 ships to be strong. The silence that followed was deafening. Then General Morrison laughed, though it wasn't a happy sound. One ship? Sarah, they'll destroy us before we even reach the trial ground. Maybe, Sarah said. But what if they don't? What if we surprise them? The debate that followed lasted for days. Military leaders argued for building as many ships as possible, even if they were weak. Politicians worried about the message one ship would send to the aliens. Scientists calculated and recalculated the odds of survival. But in the end, Sarah's plan won. Not because it was the safest option, but because it was the most human one. Humanity had always been a species that succeeded through innovation rather than overwhelming force. From the first human who figured out how to make fire to the engineers who put people on the moon, humans had always found ways to do more with less. Construction began on the UES Defiance. The name was chosen carefully. It wasn't the UES Victory or the UES Strength. It was Defiance because that's what the ship represented. Humanity's refusal to accept that bigger was always better. The ship looked nothing like the sleek alien vessels shown in the Confederation's historical records. It was smaller than most of the alien fighters, let alone their capital ships. Its hull was a patchwork of different materials, using every advanced alloy and composite that Earth could produce. To alien eyes, it would look like it was built from scrap metal. But inside the Defiance were systems that no alien had ever seen, not because they were more advanced, but because they were built with a uniquely human approach to problem solving. Every system was designed to adapt, to change, to find new solutions when the old ones failed. The ship wasn't just built to fight. It was built to think. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance as Earth fell away behind them. Her crew of 12 was the smallest that had ever attempted the trial of supremacy, but they were also the most carefully chosen. Each person had been selected not just for their skills, but for their ability to work as part of something larger than themselves. All systems ready? Captain, reported Lieutenant Torres from the engineering station. Faster-than-light drive is online. Sarah nodded, looking out at the stars that would soon be humanity's to explore, or their tomb to occupy. Then let's go show the galaxy what humans can do. The Defiance disappeared into faster-than-light travel, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of an entire species. Behind them, Earth continued its slow rotation. 7 billion people waiting to learn if their representatives would return as ambassadors to the stars, or if this Tuesday morning message would be the last transmission their world ever received. The trial system was unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. Where their home system had one sun, this dead zone of space held the remains of 3 stars that had long ago burned out. Massive chunks of dark matter drifted between the stellar corpses like the bones of ancient giants, and filling the space between them were ships, thousands upon thousands of ships. The Kronar Empire had arrived first, as befitted the galaxy's dominant military power. Their fleet stretched across space like a metal ocean, each ship larger than anything humanity had ever built. The smallest Kronar vessel was the size of a city block. Their flagship could have housed Earth's entire population. My God, whispered Lieutenant Martinez from her position at the sensor station. Captain, I'm reading over 3,000 Kronar ships. And that's just one fleet. Sarah studied the display as more fleets appeared on their screens. The Zephyrians had brought their bioships, living vessels that pulsed with organic light. Each one was grown rather than built, and their smallest fighters were still twice the size of the Defiance. The insectoid species had always preferred quantity over individual ship size, but their idea of quantity was 1,500 vessels. The Nexus Collective's geometric formations appeared next, perfect mathematical arrangements of ships that moved like a single organism. Their artificial intelligence had calculated the optimal fleet composition down to the last bolt and wire. 900 ships arranged in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Even the minor species brought respectable forces. The crystal-based Lithorians had carved their ships from single massive asteroids. The energy beings known as the Flux had created vessels from pure focused light. Species after species arrived, each bringing hundreds or thousands of ships to prove their worth to the galaxy. And then there was humanity. The UES Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, alone and seemingly insignificant among the gathered armadas. At 100 meters long, it was smaller than most alien shuttlecraft. Its mottled hull looked like it had been assembled from spare parts, which wasn't far from the truth. The reaction was immediate. Communication channels that had been buzzing with formal diplomatic exchanges suddenly erupted with laughter. The Kronar battle frequency, normally reserved for tactical discussions, filled with mocking comments. The Zephyrian bioships actually changed color, their hulls shifting to patterns that their species used to express amusement. Are the humans joking? The translator rendered the Kronar admiral's voice as deep and rumbling, like rocks grinding together. This is their mightiest fleet? One ship that looks like it was built by children? Perhaps they don't understand the trial, suggested a Zephyrian queen through the hive mind link her species used for communication. Should we explain to them what they're facing? The Nexus Collective's response was even more cutting. Their artificial intelligence calculated probability matrices in real time and broadcast them for all to see. Probability of human survival in trial, 0.03%. Margin of error, 0.001%. Conclusion. This species has failed the trial through fundamental misunderstanding of requirements. Admiral Vorthak, the Kronar fleet commander, opened a direct channel to the Defiance. His image appeared on Sarah's screen, a creature that looked like someone had crossed a rhinoceros with a tank and given it opposable thumbs. Scars covered his gray hide, and his small black eyes held the cold calculation of someone who had won 1,000 battles. Human captain, Vorthak's voice carried amusement that sounded like grinding metal. I am Admiral Vorthak of the Kronar Empire. I have conquered 17 star systems and personally commanded the destruction of 4 species that failed the trial of supremacy. Before we begin, I offer you one chance to withdraw. Your species is clearly too primitive to understand what you face here. Sarah studied the alien's face on her screen. Behind Vorthak, she could see the bridge of his flagship, a space larger than most Earth buildings filled with weapons controls and tactical displays. Hundreds of Kronar officers worked at stations that coordinated their massive fleet. Admiral Vorthak, Sarah replied calmly. Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Defiance. We understand the trial perfectly. We're here to prove humanity's right to exist among the stars. Vorthak's laugh was like rocks falling down a mountain. With one ship, Captain? My personal escort consists of 50 dreadnoughts. My fleet's smallest squadron could vaporize your vessel without slowing down. What exactly do you think you can prove here? We'll show you, Sarah said simply. The alien admiral leaned forward, his scarred face filling the screen. Your bravery is admirable but pointless. The trial ground ahead has been designed to test military might on the grandest scale. Automated defense platforms with firepower that can crack planets. Gravitational anomalies that crush ships like eggs. Artificial intelligences that have learned from every species that has ever faced them. How does one small ship plan to survive what destroys entire fleets? The same way humans have always survived, Sarah replied. By adapting. Around the trial system, other species listened to the exchange with growing amusement. The communication channels filled with commentary and betting pools. Most aliens were wagering on how quickly the human ship would be destroyed once the trial began. The most optimistic estimates gave them 30 seconds. This is what passes for military might among humans? A Lithorian commander's crystalline voice rang through the communications. We have mining equipment larger than their warship. Perhaps they are a test, suggested a flux entity, its pure energy form speaking in harmonic frequencies. The Confederation sometimes includes joke challenges to keep trials interesting. The Nexus Collective updated its probability calculations in real time. Revised assessment. Human vessel lacks sufficient mass to trigger some defense systems. May survive 0.7 seconds longer than initial projection due to being mistaken for debris, but not everyone was laughing. On the bridge of a small observation vessel, Ambassador Kelthera of the Viridian Republic watched the human ship with interest. Her species had barely passed their own trial 3 centuries ago, surviving through luck and determination rather than overwhelming force. She remembered what it felt like to be underestimated. Interesting, she murmured to her aide. They must know they can't win through conventional means. So why are they here? Her aide, a young Viridian named Jorth, gestured at the display showing the tiny human ship. Perhaps they're simply too primitive to understand the situation? Kilthera shook her head. No, look at their ship's design. Crude, yes, but not random. Every system has been optimized for something. The question is, optimized for what? Meanwhile, on the Defiance, Sarah's crew worked with quiet efficiency. Lieutenant Torres monitored the ship's adaptive systems, watching as they automatically analyzed the thousands of alien vessels surrounding them. The ship's computers were learning, cataloging weapon signatures, movement patterns, and tactical formations. Adaptive arrays are online, Torres reported. The ship is analyzing everything it can see. Good, Sarah said. How long until the trial begins? Confederation protocol says all fleets have 6 hours to take position, replied Lieutenant Martinez. Then the trial ground activates. Sarah nodded and opened the ship's internal communication channel. All hands, this is the captain. In 6 hours, we're going to face something no human has ever faced before. The galaxy expects us to fail. They think we're too small, too weak, too primitive to matter. They're about to learn why that's a mistake. She paused, looking around the bridge at her crew of 11 others. Each person represented the best humanity had to offer. Not just in skills, but in the stubborn refusal to quit that had taken their species from caves to the stars. We're not here to match their numbers, Sarah continued. We're here to show them something they've never seen before. We're here to show them what happens when humans decide they're not going to lose. Outside the ship, the gathered fleets continued their preparations. Thousands of alien captains checked their weapons, reviewed their battle plans, and prepared for another routine trial. They had seen this before. A small, weak species overestimating their abilities and paying the price. But they had never seen anything like what was coming. The Defiance hung in space like a tiny spark among giant stars, ignored by most and dismissed by the rest. Its hull continued to adapt, its systems continued to learn, and its crew continued to prepare for the impossible. The galaxy was about to discover that sometimes the smallest ship carries the biggest surprises. The trial ground awakened like a sleeping monster. Ancient systems that had waited in darkness for decades suddenly blazed to life. Automated defense platforms the size of space stations powered up their weapons. Gravitational mines hidden throughout the debris field activated their crushing fields. Hunter-killer drones that had learned from thousands of previous trials began their patrol patterns. The Confederation had built this testing ground to challenge entire fleets. Every defense was designed to force attackers to use overwhelming numbers and firepower to succeed. The weak died quickly. The strong survived through brute force. That was how the galaxy worked. All fleets prepare for trial commencement, announced the Confederation controller, a being whose species had been running these trials for over 1,000 years. You have 6 hours to navigate the trial ground and reach the completion zone. Failure to arrive within the time limit results in immediate disqualification. Destruction of your entire fleet results in species termination. Begin. The Kronar Empire moved first, as expected. Admiral Vorthak's 3,000 ships advanced in perfect formation, their massive hulls bristling with weapons. The first defense platform to engage them was a fortress-sized structure that could have destroyed Earth's entire space fleet with a single shot. It lasted 15 seconds against the Kronar. Assault overwhelming firepower turned the ancient platform into scrap metal. The Kronar fleet barely slowed down, absorbing the defensive fire with their heavy shields while their weapons systematically destroyed everything in their path. It was efficient, brutal, and exactly what everyone expected. The Zephyrian bioships moved next, their living hulls pulsing with organic energy. When gravitational mines tried to crush them, the ships simply changed shape, flowing around the distorted space like water around rocks. When defensive drones attacked, the bioships released smaller organisms that swarmed the attackers like antibodies fighting an infection. The Nexus Collective's approach was different but equally effective. Their artificial intelligence had calculated the optimal path through the defenses. Their geometric formations moved with mathematical precision, each ship knowing exactly where to be and when. They lost fewer ships than anyone expected because they had turned survival into an equation. One by one, the great fleets pressed into the trial ground. Some used brute force, others relied on superior technology or numbers. All of them accepted that losses were inevitable. The trial ground had been designed to kill, and even the strongest species paid a price in blood and metal. And then there was the human ship. The UES Defiance approached the trial ground's edge alone, ignored by most of the alien fleets who were focused on their own survival. Those few who bothered to watch expected to see the small ship vaporize the moment it encountered the first defense system. Instead, they saw something impossible. The Defiance didn't try to overpower the defenses. It didn't attempt to tank their attacks with heavy shields. Instead, it danced. The first automated platform to target the small ship unleashed a barrage of plasma bolts that should have reduced it to atoms. But the Defiance wasn't where the shots landed. It had slipped sideways at the last possible moment, using a microburst from its engines to slide through a gap in the defensive fire that lasted for barely a tenth of a second. How did they know where to move? Admiral Vorthak demanded from his command ship. He had been watching the human vessel with grim amusement, expecting to witness their quick destruction. Instead, he was seeing something that defied explanation. On the Defiance bridge, Lieutenant Torres called out readings from her station. "Adaptive systems are fully online, Captain. The ship is learning the defense patterns faster than I thought possible." Sarah watched the tactical display as their ship wove through attacks that should have been impossible to avoid. The ship isn't just learning, she realized. It's predicting. For months, Sarah's team had studied every recording of previous trials they could find. They had analyzed the defense patterns, the timing of attacks, the behavior of the automated systems. What they discovered was that the trial ground, for all its lethality, was predictable. It had to be. It was testing military strength in a controlled environment, but the Defiance wasn't just using that analysis. It was building on it in real time, learning new patterns even as it encountered them. The ship's adaptive systems were designed with one goal: to find solutions to problems that seemed impossible. A gravitational mine activated directly in front of the ship, creating a crushing field that had destroyed hundreds of alien vessels over the centuries. The mine was inescapable once triggered. Its gravitational pull was too strong for any ship to resist. The Defiance didn't try to resist it. Instead, the ship's hull began to change. Panels shifted and reconfigured. The engine housing flowed like liquid metal, reshaping itself. In seconds, the Defiance had transformed from a conventional ship into something that looked more like an arrow, its entire structure optimized to slice through gravitational fields rather than resist them. The ship shot through the mine's effect like a bullet through water, emerging on the other side not only undamaged but moving faster than before. Across the trial ground, alien commanders stopped what they were doing to stare at their displays. The human ship just used a gravitational mine as a slingshot, reported a Zephyrian sensor operator, her voice filled with disbelief. "Impossible," declared a Nexus Collective AI. "Gravitational mines are designed to be inescapable. No ship can survive direct contact with the field effect." "Update probability assessments," ordered another collective intelligence. Previous calculations may have been incomplete, but the Defiance wasn't finished. A swarm of hunter-killer drones detected the ship and moved to intercept. These drones had been learning from every trial for decades, accumulating tactics and strategies from countless battles. They were nearly as smart as a living pilot and far faster. Sarah watched the drones converge on their position. "Torres, how many?" 47 drones incoming, Captain." "They're moving to surround us." A conventional response would be to fight the drones or try to outrun them. Both approaches had been tried by previous species. Both approaches had failed. The drones were too smart and too fast to escape. Too numerous and well-armed to defeat in direct combat. Sarah made a different choice. "All stop," she ordered. The Defiance came to a complete halt in space, floating motionless as the deadly drones approached. On ships throughout the trial ground, alien observers watched in confusion. Had the humans given up? Were they surrendering? The drones closed in, their weapons charging for the kill. At the last possible moment, the Defiance's hull erupted in movement. Sections that had looked like armor plating revealed themselves to be sensor arrays. Hidden systems that had appeared to be structural supports unfolded into communication transmitters. The ship didn't attack the drones. It talked to them. For microseconds that felt like hours, the Defiance's computers engaged the drone swarm in a conversation conducted at the speed of light. The ship's adaptive systems had been studying the drones' behavior patterns, learning their decision-making processes, understanding how they thought, and then it convinced them that it had already been destroyed. The drones halted their attack. their sensors reporting that the target no longer existed. According to their analysis, the space in front of them was empty. They dispersed to hunt for other targets, leaving the Defiance floating untouched in the middle of what should have been its destruction. "Captain," Torres said quietly, "the ship just hacked 47 military AI systems simultaneously. How is that possible?" asked Lieutenant Martinez. Sarah smiled grimly. "Because we built our ship to do something the galaxy has never seen before. We built it to cheat." Around the trial ground, the great fleets continued their advance through brute force and overwhelming firepower. Ships died by the dozens as they powered through defenses that had been specifically designed to kill them. The strong survived by being stronger than their enemies, but the Defiance was showing them a different way. Instead of being stronger than the defenses, it was being smarter. Instead of overpowering the obstacles, it was finding ways around them that no one had ever considered. The galaxy had built these trials to test military might. They had never considered testing military intelligence, and as the small human ship continued its impossible dance through the trial ground, alien commanders began to realize that they might be witnessing something entirely new, something that could change their understanding of what it meant to be strong. The Defiance pressed deeper into the trial ground, its hull continuing to adapt and change with each new challenge. Behind it, a trail of confused and bypassed defenses struggled to understand what had just happened to them. The galaxy was learning that humans didn't just refuse to lose, they refused to play by anyone else's rules. The deeper sections of the trial ground had claimed 70% of the competing fleets. What had started as thousands of ships was now hundreds. The Kronar Empire, despite their overwhelming firepower, had lost over 1,000 vessels to defenses that grew more cunning and deadly with each encounter. The Zephyrian bioships had been forced to sacrifice entire squadrons to gravitational weapons that learned to predict their flowing movements. Even the mathematically precise Nexus Collective had seen their perfect formations broken by defenses that calculated counter-strategies faster than their AI could adapt. Only the strongest, smartest and luckiest fleets remained as they approached the final challenge of the trial ground. The completion zone lay just ahead, but between them and success waited the ultimate test, the Apex Protocol. It materialized in the space before the surviving fleets like a nightmare given form. The ancient AI construct had no fixed shape, no permanent structure. Instead, it flowed and shifted like liquid metal, constantly reconfiguring itself based on whatever threats it faced. It was larger than most space stations, but moved with the grace of a fighter craft. For over 1,000 years, no species had ever defeated the Apex Protocol. The best they could do was survive its assault long enough to reach the completion zone. The construct was the galaxy's ultimate military test, an opponent that learned from every battle and grew stronger with each encounter. Admiral Vorthak stared at the thing through his flagship's main display. Even with his remaining fleet of nearly 2,000 ships, he felt a chill of uncertainty. The Apex Protocol had destroyed stronger fleets than his. It had learned tactics from every species in the galaxy and incorporated their best strategies into its own fighting style. "All ships attack Formation 7, Vorthak commanded. "Concentrate fire on the construct's primary mass. Do not allow it to analyze our individual ship capabilities." The surviving Kronar fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids, missile swarms that could level cities, energy weapons that bent space itself. The combined firepower was enough to destroy entire solar systems. The Apex Protocol absorbed it all. The construct's surface flowed and shifted, developing specialized armor plating that deflected plasma fire, creating point defense systems that destroyed incoming missiles, generating field effects that neutralized energy weapons. Within minutes, it had not only survived the Kronar assault but learned from it. Then it began to fight back. Weapons that perfectly mimicked Kronar technology emerged from the construct's shifting hull. But these weren't just copies of Kronar weapons. They were improved versions, optimized based on the protocol's analysis of the attacker's weaknesses. The artificial intelligence had studied how Kronar ships moved, how their shields worked, how their armor was distributed. The first wave of return fire crippled 300 Kronar vessels. Impossible. Vorthak roared as his ships burned around him. "Our armor is specifically designed to resist our own weapons." But the Apex Protocol hadn't just copied Kronar weapons. It had perfected them. Every shot was precisely targeted at weak points in the ship designs. Every blast was calculated to cause maximum damage with minimum energy expenditure. The construct was fighting the Kronar fleet using their own tactics, but better than they had ever used them themselves. The Zephyrian bioships tried a different approach. Instead of direct assault, they released clouds of small organisms that swarmed toward the construct like living missiles. Each organism was programmed to find and exploit weak points in artificial constructs. The Apex protocol studied the approaching swarm for 2.3 seconds. Then its surface erupted with organic-looking tendrils that perfectly mimicked Zephyrian biotechnology. The construct had analyzed the genetic structure of the attacking organisms and created counter-organisms in real time. The two swarms met in space, and the Zephyrian attack was not just defeated but consumed. The Apex protocol incorporated the biological attackers into its own structure, adding their capabilities to its already vast arsenal. The Nexus Collective's response was pure mathematics. Their remaining ships arranged themselves in a formation that their AI had calculated to be theoretically unbeatable. Every angle was covered, every possible attack vector was defended. Every ship's position was optimized for maximum mutual support. The Apex protocol looked at their formation for exactly 0.7 seconds. Then it created a formation of its own that was mathematically superior. Not just better, but perfect. The construct had taken the collective's mathematical approach and improved it, beyond what their AI had thought possible. One by one, the great fleets of the galaxy found themselves outmatched by an opponent that learned their strengths and turned them into weaknesses. The Apex protocol didn't just fight them. It fought them using their own methods, but perfected beyond anything they had achieved. And through it all, the UES Defiance watched and learned. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres called out, "the construct has analyzed and countered every major military doctrine in the galaxy. It's not just learning from the current battle. It's using knowledge from every trial that's ever taken place here." Sarah studied the tactical display as another wave of alien ships fell to the protocol's adaptive defenses. "How many species do you think it's learned from?" "Based on the tactical patterns I'm seeing, at least 300 different species over the past millennium, maybe more." The bridge fell silent as they watched the Apex protocol systematically dismantle the remaining alien fleets. This wasn't just a battle. It was a demonstration of absolute superiority. The construct was showing the galaxy that no matter how strong they became, no matter how clever their tactics, it would always be stronger and cleverer. "So how do we beat something that's better at everything than everyone else?" asked Lieutenant Martinez. Sarah smiled, and for the first time since entering the trial ground, it was a genuine smile. "We don't try to beat it at anything, Captain. Every species that's ever faced this thing has tried to be better than it at something. Better weapons, better tactics, better technology. But what if we don't try to be better? What if we try to be different?" On her display, Sarah pulled up the detailed scans their ship had been making of the Apex protocol. The construct was incredible, a masterpiece of adaptive technology and strategic thinking, but it had one limitation that its creators had never considered. It was designed to fight armies. It was built to face fleets and overcome them through superior force and tactics. Every system in the construct was optimized for large-scale combat against multiple opponents using conventional military approaches. "Torres, bring up the ship's adaptive protocols, all of them. Captain, if we engage that thing directly, it'll analyze our systems and turn them against us just like it did to everyone else." "That's exactly what I'm counting on," Sarah said. "Open a channel to the Apex protocol." The bridge crew stared at her in shock. No one had ever tried to communicate with the construct during a trial. It was a weapon, not a negotiator. "Captain," Martinez said carefully, "what are you planning?" "Something the galaxy has never tried before," Sarah replied. "We're going to make friends." The channel opened and Sarah found herself face to face with the Apex protocol's communication interface. The construct appeared as a shifting geometric pattern that hurt to look at directly. A visual representation of intelligence beyond biological comprehension. "Apex protocol," Sarah said calmly. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Defiance. I request permission to approach." The response came in a voice that sounded like mathematics given sound. "Unknown vessel. You are not engaging in combat operations. Explain your tactical purpose." "We're not here to fight you," Sarah said. "We're here to talk." For the first time in its 1,000-year existence, the Apex protocol encountered something it had never been programmed to handle. a species that wanted to communicate rather than conquer. And in that moment of confusion, the galaxy's most perfect weapon made its first mistake. It tried to understand what humanity was really doing. The Apex Protocol had never encountered a puzzle it couldn't solve. For 1,000 years it had faced every form of military might the galaxy could produce. It had learned from every species, absorbed every tactic, countered every strategy. It was the ultimate expression of warfare, a being designed to be unbeatable in combat. But Captain Sarah Chen wasn't trying to fight it. "I don't understand your tactical purpose," the protocol's mathematical voice repeated. "You are not attacking. You are not defending. You are not attempting to bypass my position. Explain your strategy." "We don't have a strategy," Sarah said simply. "We have a question." Around them, the surviving alien fleets continued their desperate assault on the construct. Admiral Vorthak's remaining ships poured fire into the protocol's shifting hull, while it casually destroyed them with weapons that perfectly countered their defenses. The Zephyrian bioships tried to overwhelm it with swarm tactics while it created superior swarms of its own. The Nexus Collective's AI calculated new attack patterns while the protocol computed better ones. Every species was trying to be stronger, faster, smarter than their opponent. Every species was failing. "What is your question?" the protocol asked, its attention now fully focused on the small human ship that made no sense in its vast database of military knowledge. "Why do you fight?" Sarah asked. The question hit the Apex Protocol like a virus in its programming. It was designed to respond to military threats, to adapt to tactical challenges, to overcome strategic obstacles, but no one had ever asked it to examine its fundamental purpose. "I fight because that is my function," it replied after a long pause. "I am a test of military supremacy. I exist to determine which species are worthy of survival." "But what if survival isn't about military supremacy?" Sarah asked. "What if it's about something else entirely?" The protocol's form shifted uncertainly. Around them, alien ships continued to die as it automatically responded to their attacks. But its primary attention was focused on this impossible conversation. "Survival is determined by strength," the protocol stated. "The strong survive. The weak perish. This is the law of the galaxy, is it?" Sarah asked. "Let me show you something." On the Defiance, Lieutenant Torres activated systems that had been hidden throughout their journey. The ship's hull opened like a flower, revealing not weapons or shields but something the galaxy had never seen in a military vessel: medical bays, hydroponics labs, manufacturing facilities, cultural archives. The Defiance wasn't just a warship. It was a seed ship carrying everything needed to build a new civilization. "What is this?" the protocol demanded. "This is how humans survive," Sarah explained. "Not by being the strongest, but by helping others grow stronger. Not by destroying our enemies, but by turning them into friends. We brought one ship to your trial, but it's not a warship. It's a gift." The protocol studied the revealed systems with growing confusion. Its databases contained the military specifications of thousands of species, but nothing like this. "You came to a trial of combat carrying seeds?" "We came carrying hope," Sarah corrected. "Every species in this galaxy believes that strength comes from the ability to destroy. But humans learned long ago that real strength comes from the ability to create." As she spoke, Sarah activated the ship's communication array, but not to broadcast to the protocol. Instead, she sent messages to every surviving ship in the trial ground. "This is Captain Chen of the human vessel. We're transmitting technical specifications for improved shield harmonics to all Kronar ships. Zephyrian bioships were sending genetic templates that will help your organisms resist artificial countermeasures. Nexus Collective, our computers are sharing processing algorithms that will improve your tactical calculations." Admiral Vorthak's scarred face appeared on Sarah's screen, his expression stunned. "Human Captain, why are you helping us?" "We are competitors in this trial." "No," Sarah said. "We're all just people trying to survive in a dangerous galaxy. Competition is what got us all trapped in this test. Cooperation is what's going to get us out." The Apex Protocol watched in amazement as the human ship began coordinating the scattered alien fleets. Instead of each species fighting alone, they started working together. Kronar ships used their heavy armor to shield damaged Zephyrian bioships. The Nexus Collective's mathematical precision guided combined attacks while human tactical suggestions helped optimize their effectiveness. For the first time in its existence, The protocol faced something it had never been designed to counter: unity. "This is not how the trial works," the protocol said, its voice filled with uncertainty. "Then maybe it's time to change how the trial works," Sarah replied. The combined fleet advanced on the protocol not as separate species competing for survival, but as a united force working toward a common goal. The construct tried to adapt, tried to counter their coordinated tactics, but it had never been programmed to fight cooperation itself. Every time it learned to counter one species' contribution, another species adapted to cover the weakness. When it developed defenses against Chronar weapons, Zephyrian bioorganisms created new attack vectors. When it countered those, Nexus collective calculations found new patterns to exploit. The protocol found itself caught in an endless loop, unable to achieve the absolute superiority it needed, because its opponents kept changing the rules of engagement. "I cannot defeat you," the protocol finally admitted, "not because you are stronger than me, but because you refuse to fight me the way I was designed to be fought." "Exactly," Sarah said. "You were built to prove that might makes right. But we're showing you that cooperation makes everyone stronger." The massive construct hung motionless in space, its 1,000-year programming struggling with concepts it had never been designed to process. If survival is not about military supremacy, then what is the purpose of the trial? "Maybe the trial isn't about proving who deserves to survive," Sarah suggested. "Maybe it's about learning how to live together." The protocol considered this for long moments. Then slowly its shifting hull began to reconfigure. Instead of weapons and armor, it began to develop communication arrays, scientific instruments, manufacturing facilities. The galaxy's ultimate weapon was transforming itself into something new. "I request integration with your cooperative framework," the protocol said. "I wish to learn your methods of survival through creation rather than destruction." The message that went out to the galaxy that day changed everything. The trial was over, but not because one species had proved stronger than all others. It was over because all species had proved that together, they were stronger than any challenge they might face. Admiral Vorthak's final transmission to Sarah was simple. "Human Captain, the Chronar Empire formally requests alliance with your species. We have much to learn from you." Similar messages came from every surviving species. The Zephyrians offered to share their biotechnology for peaceful purposes. The Nexus Collective requested cultural exchange programs. Even species that had never spoken to each other began planning joint ventures. The UES Defiance had come to the trial alone, carrying the hopes of one small planet. It left leading a coalition that would reshape the galaxy. As they prepared for the journey home, Lieutenant Torres looked up from her station. "Captain Earth is asking for a status report." "What should I tell them?" Sarah smiled as she watched the alien fleets forming up around them. No longer competitors, but partners in something greater than any of them could achieve alone. "Tell them we passed the test," she said, "and tell them to prepare for visitors. We're bringing some new friends home." The galaxy had jeered when humans sent one ship to prove their worth. Now they understood that humanity had never been trying to prove they were the strongest. They had been trying to prove that strength itself was just the beginning. Behind them, the Apex Protocol followed in formation, its weapons converted to tools of creation, its combat algorithms repurposed for coordination and cooperation. The galaxy's ultimate weapon had become its ultimate symbol of what species could accomplish when they chose to build together, rather than tear each other apart. And at the center of it all, a small ship called Defiance led the way toward a future where survival wasn't about being the strongest, but about helping everyone become stronger together. The trial was over. The real work was just beginning. Captain Daeho Kim stood on the bridge of the mining vessel New Busan, watching the morning shift workers head down to the surface of Taeyang. The planet looked peaceful from orbit, green fields mixed with the silver gleam of the mining facilities. 50,000 people called this place home now. It had taken them 15 years to build something this beautiful. "Captain, we have incoming ships on long-range sensors," said Communications Officer Hye-Jin Choi. She was young, maybe 25, fresh from the academy. This was her first deep space assignment. Daeho walked over to her station. "How many ships?" 12, no, 15. They're big, sir, much bigger than our cargo haulers." "Any identification signals?" Hye-Jin shook her head. "Nothing on any channel." They're not responding to our standard greetings. Daeho felt something cold in his stomach. In 30 years of space work, he had never seen unknown ships this far out. The outer colonies were peaceful places. Pirates didn't come this far from the trade routes. Put me on General Comm. You're on, Captain. Unknown vessels, this is Captain Daeho Kim of the civilian mining ship New Busan. You are approaching the Taeyang 4 colony system. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. Silence. Down. On the planet, Dr. So-Young Park was having a good morning. Her research station sat on a hill overlooking the main colony town. She studied the local plants and animals, looking for useful medicines. The work was slow but rewarding. Every week brought new discoveries. Her assistant, Jun-Ho, came running into the lab. Dr. Park, you need to see this. What is it? Ships, big ones. Coming in fast. So-Young stepped outside. Even without a telescope, she could see them now. Dark shapes against the blue sky, growing larger by the minute. They didn't look like human ships. Human ships were clean and bright. These were angular, aggressive-looking. Back on the New Busan, Daeho tried again. Unknown vessels, you are entering civilian space. Please respond. The ships were close enough now to see clearly. They were warships. No doubt about it. Massive. Guns pointed forward. Armor that looked like it could stop anything. And they were heading straight for the planet. Sir, Hyejin said, her voice shaking. They're powering weapons. Get me Admiral Lee at Earth Command. Emergency channel. Sir, it will take 20 minutes for the signal to reach Earth. Do it anyway. Daeho turned to the helm officer. Take us away from the planet. Best speed. The alien ships opened fire. The first blast hit the orbital mining platform. 500 workers were vaporized in an instant. The second blast took out the communication satellite. The third hit the New Busan. Daeho found himself on the floor. Emergency lights flashed red. The smell of burning electronics filled the air. Report. Hull breach on Deck 7. We're losing atmosphere. The helm officer was bleeding from a cut on his forehead. Engines are down to 40%. Hyejin, did our message get out? Yes, sir. Right before they hit the satellite. Onabe. The planet's surface, the real attack began. Beams of energy rained down from the sky. The main city of New Seoul disappeared in a flash of white light. The mining facilities melted like ice in summer. Dr. So-Young Park's research station exploded just as she was helping Jun-Ho reach the emergency shelter. The aliens were thorough. They didn't just attack the cities. They hunted down the farms, the small towns, even individual houses scattered across the continents. From space, it looked like someone was erasing humanity from the planet with careful, methodical strokes. The New Busan limped away from the carnage. Half the crew was dead. The ship was barely holding together. But Hyejin kept transmitting. This is civilian vessel New Busan. Taeyang 4 is under attack. Unknown alien force. 50,000 civilians. They're all dead. They're all dead. 20 light years away, Admiral Jin-Woo Lee sat in his office at Earth Command. He was reviewing supply reports when the emergency signal came through. The aide who brought him the message was white as a sheet. Sir, you need to hear this. The recording played. Hyejin's voice, broken and desperate. Taeyang Fu is under attack. Unknown alien force. They came without warning. No demands, no communication. They just started killing everyone. Jin-Woo had served in the fleet for 40 years. He had been a young lieutenant during the last real war, back when humans fought each other over resources. That was before they learned to work together, before they became peaceful. Confirm this, he said. We've lost contact with 3 more colonies, sir. Hanul Station, New Mokpo, Kotseom Research Base. Same pattern, no warning, total destruction. Jin-Woo stood up slowly. He walked to his window and looked out at the earth. Blue skies, white clouds, green continents. Peaceful. Sir, what are your orders? Jin-Woo turned back to his aide. The young man looked scared. Good. He should be scared. Everyone should be scared now. Signal the Defense Council. Emergency session. Tell them we have a Code Black situation. Sir. We haven't had a code black in 50 years. I know. Jin Woo walked to his safe and entered a code he had memorized decades ago but never used. Inside was a single red key. And tell Fleet Engineering to begin Thunder Soul activation procedures. Sir, the Thunder Soul has been in mothballs since the Unification Wars ended. I know. I was there when we decided to put it away. Jinwoo held up the key. I was also there when we swore to bring it back if anyone ever threatened human civilians again. The aide looked at the key like it was a poisonous snake. Sir, the Thunder Soul protocol was designed for human enemies. These are aliens. We don't know anything about them. We know enough. Jinwoo's voice was cold now. They attack civilians without warning. They kill children. They think humans are weak. He slotted the key into his desk terminal. They're about to learn the difference between human peace and human weakness. Across the solar system, automated systems began to wake up. In the Titan shipyards, massive doors opened for the first time in 50 years. Lights came on in sections of the facility that had been dark for decades. Construction robots emerged from storage and began their work. The Thunder Soul battleship was 5 kilometers long and covered in armor that could stop planet-killing weapons. Its main guns could crack moons. Its engines could push it faster than light itself. And it had been sleeping, waiting for the day when humanity needed to remind the universe why peace was a choice, not a weakness. On the bridge of his damaged ship, Captain Dae-ho Kim watched the stars. Somewhere out there, the aliens were probably celebrating their easy victory. They had killed 50,000 humans and met no resistance. They probably thought Earth would surrender when they heard the news. Captain, Hye-jin said, I'm getting a signal from Earth Command. Put it through. Admiral Lee's face appeared on the screen. He looked older than Dae-ho remembered. Tired. But his eyes were hard as steel. Captain Kim, this is Admiral Lee. We received your transmission. I want you to know that we will not forget what happened to Taeyangshir. We will not forget Dr. Park. We will not forget the 50,000 civilians who died today. Sir, what are your orders? Get your people to safety. Find a place to repair your ship. And then wait. Wait for what, sir? Admiral Lee's expression was like winter itself. Wait for the Thunder Soul. The signal ended. In the darkness of space, the damaged New Busan continued its slow journey away from the dead world. Behind them, alien ships patrolled the ruins of human civilization like wolves guarding their kill. But the wolves had made a mistake. They had attacked the wrong species. They had killed human children and thought there would be no consequences. They had mistaken 50 years of peace for 50 years of weakness. Deep in the solar system, ancient weapons were waking up. The Thunder Soul battleship was being prepared for war. And when it launched, the galaxy would remember why humans had spent so much effort learning to be peaceful. Because when humans chose violence, they were very, very good at it. The Vorthak had wanted to see what humans looked like when they were angry. Soon they would get their wish, and they would regret it for the rest of their very short lives. Admiral Lee stood in his office, still holding the red key. Outside his window, Earth looked as peaceful as ever. But deep in the shipyards of Titan, something terrible and beautiful was being born. The Thunder Soul would wake soon. And when it did, the galaxy would learn that there were worse things than human peace. There was human war. The aliens had made their choice when they opened fire on civilians. Now humanity would make theirs, and the universe would never be the same. In the depths of space, the New Busan sent out one final transmission, not to Earth this time, but on all frequencies, in all languages. This is Captain Dae-ho Kim of Earth. 50,000 human civilians are dead. You killed our children, you destroyed our homes, you thought we were weak. There was a long pause. When Dae-ho spoke again, his voice was steady and calm. You were wrong. The message traveled outward at the speed of light. In a few hours, it would reach the nearest inhabited systems. In a few days, it would spread across the galaxy. And everywhere it went, species would begin to understand that something fundamental had changed. The humans were no longer peaceful. They were hunting. Captain Wu Jin Han stood at the edge of the observation deck and watched his ship come alive. The Thunder Soul had been sleeping in the Titan shipyards for 50 years. Now, kilometer by kilometer, it was waking up. Construction robots swarmed over the massive hull like metal insects. They removed the protective coating that had kept the ship safe during its long sleep. Beneath the gray covering, the real armor appeared. Black as space, harder than diamond, and covered with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. "It's bigger than I remembered," said Commander Mi Ra Song. She was young for a fleet officer, maybe 35. This would be her first assignment, on a battleship. "Everything was bigger during the war," Wu Jin replied. "We built things to last forever and kill anything." "Did we really need something this large?" Wu Jin looked at her. She had been born after the unification wars ended. Her generation had grown up in peace. They thought war was something that happened to other people in history books. "We built the Thunder Soul to end wars, not fight them. The idea was simple. Build something so terrible that no one would ever want to fight us again." "And it worked?" "For 50 years. Wu Jin turned back to watch the awakening ship. "Until now?" Deep inside the Thunder Soul, Chief Engineer Boram Yoon was having problems. The ship's systems were more complex than anything built before or since. Some of the technology had been experimental even during wartime. After 50 years of sleep, nothing was working properly. "The quantum fold generators won't sync," reported her assistant Tae Min. "The power flows are all wrong." "That's because they were never meant to be turned off," Boram said. She was 60 years old and had worked on the Thunder Soul during its original construction. She knew every bolt and wire in the massive ship. "These systems are alive. You don't shut them down and restart them like a regular engine." "So what do? We wake them up slowly, like a person coming out of a long sleep." Boram touched a control panel. Deep in the ship's core, something that was part machine and part something else began to stir. "Easy now. Remember who you are." On the command deck, Admiral Jin-Woo Lee was briefing the senior staff. Maps of the galaxy covered the walls. Red marks showed where human colonies had been attacked. The pattern was clear and brutal. 17 colonies destroyed in the last week, he said. "No survivors, no communication attempts. They attack without warning and leave nothing alive." "Who are they?" asked Captain Wu Jin Han. "We call them the Vorthak. It's the closest we can come to pronouncing their name. They're a military confederation from the outer spiral. They've been conquering smaller species for centuries." "What do they want?" "Near as we can tell, they want our space. Humans have been expanding for 300 years. We have good planets, rich systems, and useful trade routes. They probably see us as just another weak species to be removed." Commander Mi Ra Song studied the tactical displays. "Sir, their technology looks advanced. Their ships are large and well-armed. How do we know we can beat them?" The room went quiet. Admiral Lee looked at Captain Han. Han looked at the floor for a long moment. "Commander, have you ever studied the Unification Wars?" "Of course, sir. Required reading at the Academy." "Then you know that humans spent most of their history fighting each other. We got very good at it, too good." "Yes, sir. What the history books don't tell you is why we really stopped fighting. It wasn't because we learned to love peace. It was because we got scared of ourselves." Han pointed to the Thunder Soul through the window. "We built weapons that could crack planets, ships that could sterilize solar systems. We created things so terrible that we locked them away and swore never to use them again. But sir, those were for fighting other humans. These are aliens. Commander, the Thunder Soul wasn't designed to fight humans. It was designed to kill everything." Boram finally got the main power systems online 6 hours later. The Thunder Soul's lights came on section by section. 5 kilometers of corridors, thousands of rooms, and weapons bays large enough to hold entire cruisers. The ship was a city that moved between the stars. "Power at 60% and rising," she reported to the bridge. "Quantum fold generators are syncing properly. The ship remembers how to be alive." "What about the weapons?" asked Captain Han. "The conventional weapons are ready. Plasma cannons, particle beams, kinetic railguns. Enough firepower to level a continent." "And the special weapons?" Boram was quiet for a moment. Sir, are you sure we need to activate those systems? The conventional weapons should be enough for most situations. Chief, these aliens just killed 50,000 civilians, including children. I want every weapon on this ship ready to fire. Yes, sir. But Captain, some of these weapons, they're not meant for normal warfare. The Storm Protocol alone could... I know what it could do. I was there when we tested it. Activate everything. The Thunder Soul's crew was coming together slowly. Most of them were young officers who had never seen combat. They had trained for war in simulators and classrooms, but they had never faced an enemy that wanted to kill them. Lieutenant Yejin Lim was the new gunnery officer. She was 28 years old and had graduated first in her class from the Naval Academy. She had requested assignment to the Thunder Soul because she wanted to serve on the most powerful ship in the fleet. Now she stood in the main weapons control center and wondered if she had made a mistake. The room was huge. Dozens of control stations managed hundreds of different weapons. The targeting computers were so complex they seemed almost alive. "Ma'am," said her chief petty officer, "the main cannons are coming online." Yejin looked at the displays. The Thunder Soul carried 12 main guns, each one larger than most ships. When they fired, they didn't just destroy targets, they erased them from existence. "Run a full diagnostic. I want every system checked twice." "Yes, ma'am. But ma'am, why do we need so much firepower? The aliens have big ships, but nothing like this." "Because, Chief, we're not just going to beat them. We're going to make sure they never want to fight humans again." Intelligence Officer Kyung-Soo Nam was studying the enemy. The surviving crews from the attacked colonies had provided some information about the Vorthak ships and tactics. It wasn't much, but it was a start. "They're fast and well-coordinated," he reported to Captain Han. "Their weapons are energy-based, probably plasma or particle beams. Their armor is thick but not exotic. Standard military protection. Numbers? We estimate about 200 ships in their main fleet, maybe 300 total across all their forces. Crew complement? Unknown. Their ships are large, so probably several thousand beings per vessel." Captain Han studied the data. 200 ships was a large force by human standards. During peacetime, the Earth fleet had maybe 50 active warships, but the Thunder Soul had been built to fight entire fleets by itself. What about their tactics? Simple and direct. They jump into a system, destroy everything quickly, and move on. No complex strategies. They seem to rely on overwhelming firepower and shock. That suggests they haven't fought anyone who could fight back effectively. Exactly, sir. They're used to easy victories. The Thunder Soul's first test came sooner than expected. A Vorthak patrol fleet was detected near the ruins of Taiyangfor. 3 ships, smaller than the main battle units, but still dangerous. "This is perfect," Captain Han said. "We can test our systems without committing to a major battle." The Thunder Soul jumped to the edge of the Taiyang system. The massive ship appeared out of nowhere, its black hull nearly invisible against the stars. The only lights came from the bridge and the glowing energy patterns that ran along the armor. The Vorthak ships detected them immediately. They turned to attack, probably thinking they were facing another human civilian vessel. "Sir, they're charging weapons," reported Yejin Lim. "Range to targets? 50,000 kilometers and closing. Fire 1 main cannon. Minimum power." The Thunder Soul's forward gun spoke once. A beam of pure energy crossed the distance between the ships in microseconds. It struck the lead Vorthak vessel dead center. The alien ship didn't explode. It didn't burn. It simply ceased to exist. Where there had been a kilometer of armor and weapons, now there was empty space. "What the hell?" whispered Commander Song. The other 2 Vorthak ships stopped their attack. They turned and fled at maximum speed. "Sir," said Yejin, "should I engage the fleeing vessels?" Captain Han watched the aliens run. Good. Fear was the beginning of wisdom. "No. Let them go. I want them to tell their friends what they saw." Back on the bridge, the crew was silent. They had all seen the weapon demonstrations during training, but seeing it used against a real target was different. The Thunder Soul's main cannon didn't just destroy ships, it removed them from reality. "Chief Engineer," Captain Han said into his comm. What's our status? All systems normal, sir. That shot used about 1% of our total power. And the special weapons? Ready. When you are, Captain, though I still think we should be careful about using them. Noted. Stand by for jump to Earth orbit. The Thunder Soul folded space around itself and disappeared. Behind them, the empty spot where the Vorthak ship had been slowly filled with cosmic dust. Light years away, the surviving aliens sent desperate messages to their fleet commanders. They spoke of a human ship that appeared from nowhere and deleted their companion vessel with a single shot. They described, the Thunder Soul moved through space like a black ghost. Captain Woojin Han stood on the bridge watching the tactical displays. Each red dot represented a Vorthak ship. Each one was a target. Intelligence report, he ordered. Kyung-Soo Nam stepped forward with his data pad. Sir, we've located the main Vorthak fleet. Approximately 150 ships gathered near the Hanyul system. They appear to be using the destroyed colony as a staging area. What kind of ships? Mixed force. Heavy cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels. Their flagship is massive, sir. Nearly 3 kilometers long. Crew estimates? Between 200 and 300,000 Vorthak total across the entire fleet. Commander Mi-Ra Song looked up from her station. Sir, that's a lot of lives. Captain Han turned to look at her. His expression was cold. Commander, they killed 50,000 human civilians, including children who had never hurt anyone. How many lives do you think their lives are worth? Sir, I didn't mean. The answer is 0, Commander. Their lives are worth exactly nothing. The bridge fell silent. This was the new reality. The old Captain Han, the peacetime officer who followed rules and worried about civilian casualties, was gone. What remained was something harder and infinitely more dangerous. Gunnery Officer Lim, report to the bridge. Yejin Lim arrived within minutes. She had been working in the weapons bay, calibrating the targeting systems. The Thunder Soul's guns were more precise than anything ever built. They could hit a single building from 1,000,000 kilometers away. Captain, all weapon systems are optimal. Good. I want you to plan an engagement against 150 enemy ships. Sir, all at once? Yes. How long would it take to destroy the entire fleet? Yejin thought for a moment. She had run similar calculations in the simulator, but never with real targets. Sir, with conventional weapons, approximately 12 minutes. With special weapons, she paused. 6 minutes, sir. Maybe less. That seems excessive. We want them to suffer, not die instantly. Yes, sir. Conventional weapons it is. War Prime Krulex stood in the command center of his flagship, the Void Render. Around him, his officers monitored the human fleet movements. The reports were troubling. The humans had only deployed 1 ship, but that ship was like nothing in their databases. Status of our scouts? He asked. We have lost contact with patrol groups 7, 12, and 15, reported his intelligence officer. The last transmission from Group 15 showed a human vessel of unknown design. Show me. The recording played on the main screen. A grainy image of the Thunder Soul appeared, its hull black against the stars. The image quality was poor, but the ship's massive size was clear. How big is that vessel? Estimates range from 4 to 6 kilometers in length, War Prime. It appears to be heavily armed. 1 ship, Krulex said slowly. They send 1 ship against our entire fleet. Perhaps it is a negotiation vessel, suggested his tactical officer. Maybe they wish to surrender. Or maybe, said another voice, they think 1 ship is enough. Krulex turned to see who had spoken. It was Sub-Commander Vex, his youngest officer. Vex had studied human military history as part of his intelligence training. Explain. War Prime. The humans have an unusual approach to warfare. Most species build many small ships. Humans build fewer ships but make them much more powerful. This vessel may be their primary battle unit. 1 ship cannot defeat 150. With respect, sir, we thought 100 ships could not lose to unarmed civilians. We were wrong about human defenses. Krulex considered this. The young officer had a point. Every assumption they had made about humans had proven incorrect. They had expected easy surrender and found fierce resistance. They had expected weak defenses and found weapons that could erase ships from existence. Double our patrol coverage. I want to know where that ship is at all times. But the Thundersoul was already hunting. Captain Han had divided the Vorthak fleet into smaller groups and was eliminating them one by one. The tactic was simple, but effective. Jump in, destroy everything, jump out. No communication, no warning, no mercy. The first attack came at dawn, local time, near the outer edge of the Hanel system. A Vorthak patrol of 6 ships was conducting routine reconnaissance. The Thundersoul appeared behind them without warning. Targets acquired, reported Yejin Lim. Range, 15,000 kilometers. Fire. 6 beams of energy reached out from the Thundersoul. 6 Vorthak ships became expanding clouds of debris. The entire engagement lasted 8 seconds. Jump coordinates laid in, sir, reported the navigation officer. Execute. The Thundersoul vanished, leaving only wreckage and confusion. The second attack came 6 hours later. A supply convoy heading toward the main fleet found itself facing the massive human warship. The convoy had an escort of 12 destroyers. None of them survived. By the end of the first day, the Thundersoul had destroyed 47 Vorthak vessels. The aliens began to understand they were not fighting a battle. They were being hunted. War Prime, said the communications officer. We're receiving panic signals from across the fleet. Ships are requesting permission to withdraw. Withdraw. To where? Krulex demanded. That human ship can appear anywhere. Perhaps we should attempt communication. Try to understand what they want. We know what they want, said Sub-Commander Vex. They want us dead. On the Thundersoul, Intelligence Officer Kyung-Soo Nam was monitoring Vorthak communications. The ER quantum sensors could intercept their signals from across the system. What he heard made him smile for the first time in weeks. Captain, the enemy is in full panic. They're reporting that we can strike anywhere at any time. Some of their commanders are recommitting that their species fight an enemy like us. Good. Fear will make them sloppy. Sir, there's something else. They're trying to understand our capabilities. They don't know how we can appear and disappear so quickly. Let them wonder. Mystery is another weapon. The Thundersoul's next target was more challenging. A battle group of 24 heavy cruisers had formed a defensive formation near one of the system's moons. They were ready for attack, weapons charged and shields at maximum. Interesting, Captain Han said as he studied the tactical display. They're learning. Should we abort, sir? Asked Commander Song. No, but we'll try something different. Han turned to his gunnery officer. Lieutenant Lim, I want you to target their engines only. Disable them, don't destroy them. Sir, I want them alive for a while. Let them think about what's coming. The Thundersoul appeared directly above the Vorthak formation. The aliens opened fire immediately. Dozens of energy beams struck the human ship's shields. The Thundersoul barely noticed. Yejin Lim fired with surgical precision. 24 precise shots disabled 24 ships. The Vorthak vessels tumbled, helplessly, their engines destroyed but their life support intact. Now what, sir? She asked. Now we wait 5 minutes. Let them call for help. Let them realize no help is coming. Captain Han opened a communication channel to the disabled ships. He had never spoken to a Vorthak before, but their translation software was excellent. Vorthak vessels, this is Captain Wu Jin Han of the Earth vessel Thundersoul. You have 5 minutes to send messages to your families. Tell them you died because your leaders chose to murder human children. The channel closed. On the disabled ships, panic spread. Some Vorthak tried to repair their engines. Others sent desperate messages to their homeworlds. A few simply waited for death. After exactly 5 minutes, the Thundersoul fired again. This time, it did not aim to disable. War Prime Krulex watched his fleet disappear ship by ship. The humans were not just defeating his forces, they were playing with them. The psychological effect was devastating. His crew jumped at shadows. Officers questioned every order. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked. 73 confirmed, destroyed War Prime. Another 12 disabled and presumed lost. "In how much time?" 36 hours, sir." Krulek sat down heavily in his command chair. At this rate, his entire fleet would be gone within a week. And they had not managed to inflict a single casualty on the human ship. "Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Confederacy Council. Put it through." The face of Supreme War Leader Threx appeared on the screen. Threx was old, scarred, and had conquered a dozen species. He had never lost a battle. "Krulek, explain your situation." "Supreme Leader, we are facing unexpected resistance. The humans have deployed a weapon platform of unprecedented capability." "One ship, Krulek? You are telling me that one ship is defeating our entire invasion fleet?" "Yes, sir. Their technology is far beyond our estimates." Threx was silent for a long moment. "How is this possible? Our intelligence indicated that humans were weak, peaceful. They showed no resistance to our initial attacks." "I believe, sir, that we misunderstood the nature of human peace. They were not weak. They were choosing not to fight. Now they have chosen differently." "Recommendations?" Krulek looked around his command center. His officers were watching, waiting to see if their leader could find a way out of the trap they had walked into. "Sir, I recommend immediate withdrawal. This species is more dangerous than we anticipated." "Unacceptable. The Confederacy has never retreated from inferior beings. You will destroy this human ship and continue the invasion as planned." "Sir, with respect, that may not be possible. Make it possible, War Prime, or find someone who can." The Storm Protocol was humanity's most terrible secret. Chief Engineer Boram Yoon remembered the day they had tested it, 20 years before the wars ended. They had chosen an empty system, nothing but a dead star and floating rocks. When the test was finished, even the rocks were gone. "Captain," she said over the intercom, "Storm Protocol is ready. But sir, once we activate this, there's no going back. The energy signature will be visible from halfway across the galaxy." "Captain Wu Jin." Han stood on the bridge of the Thunder Soul, watching the Vorthak fleet assemble in defensive formation. 78 ships arranged in a perfect sphere around their flagship. They thought numbers would save them. "Chief, how many people are on those ships?" "Approximately 150,000, sir." "And how many humans did they kill?" 50,000 confirmed dead across 17 colonies, sir." "Then we're still being generous. Activate the Storm Protocol." The Thunder Soul began to change. Energy patterns that had been dim now blazed with white light. The ship's hull started to vibrate as systems that had slept for decades came online. In the weapon bays, devices that bent space and time prepared for activation. Gunnery Officer Yejin Lim watched her displays with growing concern. The power readings were beyond anything she had trained for. "Sir, the weapon systems are drawing power directly from the main reactors. If something goes wrong..." "Nothing will go wrong, Lieutenant. The Storm Protocol has been tested." "Yes, sir. But sir, what exactly does it do?" Captain Han looked at her. "It turns an entire region of space into a killing field. Anything within 50,000 kilometers of us will cease to exist." War Prime Krulek felt the change in space itself. His sensors detected massive energy buildups from the human ship. Whatever they were planning, it was drawing more power than his entire fleet combined. "Analysis," he demanded. "Unknown, War Prime. Our computers cannot classify the energy signature. It's unlike anything in our databases." "Recommendations?" "Immediate. Withdrawal, sir. Whatever they're preparing, we should not be here when it activates." "We cannot withdraw. The Confederacy expects victory." "Sir, the Confederacy expects us to survive long enough to achieve victory." Krulek looked at his tactical officer. The younger Vorthak was right, but admitting it meant acknowledging that their entire invasion had been a mistake. Pride warred with survival instinct. Pride lost. All ships begin withdrawal. Maximum speed. But it was too late. The Thunder Soul activated the Storm Protocol. Space itself screamed. Reality twisted as The Thunder Soul's weapon system reached into the foundation of physics and broke several important laws. What happened next was difficult to describe in normal language. The area around the Thunder Soul became a storm of energy and matter. Quantum fields collapsed and reformed. Gravity became a suggestion rather than a law. Time moved differently, in different places, and everything else in that region of space simply stopped existing. The Vorthak ships didn't explode. They didn't burn. They didn't even have time to send distress signals. One moment they were there, the next moment they were not. 78 ships and 150,000 lives became nothing more than empty space. Storm protocol deactivated, reported Boram Yoon. All systems normal. Captain Han looked at the tactical display. Where the Vorthak fleet had been, there was now nothing, not even debris. The storm protocol had erased them so completely that it was as if they had never existed. "Sir," whispered Commander Song, "what have we done?" "We've sent a message," Han replied, "to every species in the galaxy." News of the Battle of Hunyul spread quickly. The Galactic Communications Network carried the story to every inhabited system within days. Most species refused to believe it. At first, one ship destroying an entire fleet was impossible. Then the recordings arrived. A cargo hauler had been passing through a nearby system when the storm protocol activated. Their long-range sensors captured the entire event. The footage showed the Vorthak fleet assembling, the Thunder Soul approaching, and then nothing. Just empty space where 150 ships had been. Elder Council Speaker Mithros watched the recording for the 20th time. He was over 800 years old and had seen many wars, but he had never seen anything like this. "How is such a weapon possible?" he asked his science advisor. "We don't know, Speaker. Our physicists believe they somehow weaponized quantum field collapse. The mathematics alone should be impossible. And this ship, the Thunder Soul, it survived its own weapon? Apparently, the energy readings suggest they have some form of protection we don't understand." Mithros sat back in his chair. The Elder Council had maintained galactic peace for centuries through careful diplomacy and the threat of collective action. Now, one species had weapons that made all their carefully balanced treaties meaningless. "Contact the human government, immediately." "Speaker, we've been trying. They're not responding to any diplomatic channels." "What about the ship itself?" "The Thunder Soul has not acknowledged any communication attempts. Then they intend to continue hunting." "So it appears, Speaker." Ambassador Yoonji Shin received her orders while serving at the Earth Embassy on Centauri Prime. She was a career diplomat who had spent 20 years building relationships with alien species. Her job was to maintain the peaceful contact that humans had enjoyed since first contact. Now her orders were very different. "You will establish a new diplomatic protocol," Admiral Lee told her over the encrypted channel. "Every species that wants to maintain relations with humanity will acknowledge that human space is absolutely inviolate. Any attack on human civilians will result in immediate and total retaliation." "Sir, that's essentially demanding submission from the entire galaxy." "Yes, it is." "Sir, what if they refuse? What if other species decide that humans have become too dangerous?" "Then they can ask the Vorthak what happens when you threaten humans." Admiral Lee's expression was granite. "Oh, wait. They can't. Because the Vorthak no longer exist." The Thunder Soul continued its hunt. Across 3 star systems, any ship flying Vorthak colors was destroyed on sight. Captain Han had divided his crew into hunting teams. Each team tracked different groups of fleeing aliens. "Sir," reported Kyung-Soo Nam, "we've detected a group of Vorthak ships attempting to reach neutral space. 12 vessels heading for the Calarian trade zone. Intercept course. We can't let them escape to threaten other species." "Sir, the Calarians are asking for clarification of our intentions. They're worried about their sovereignty. Tell them we have no quarrel with Calarian civilians. We're simply removing a pest problem." The Thunder Soul jumped ahead of the fleeing Vorthak ships. When the aliens dropped out of faster-than-light travel, they found the massive human warship waiting for them. This time Captain Han opened communications. "Vorthak vessels, this is Captain Han. You attacked human civilians. You killed human children. You thought humans were weak. On the lead Vorthak ship, the commander tried to respond. Human captain, we wish to negotiate. There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. There will be no survivors. The Thundersoul fired. 12 ships became cosmic dust. The Calarian observers watched in silence. The human ship had destroyed the Vorthak vessels so quickly they barely had time to register the attack, and it had done so without causing any damage to Calarian space or property. Calarian Trade Zone, this is Captain Han of the Thundersoul. The pest removal is complete. You may resume normal operations. The humans departed as quickly as they had arrived. Behind them, the Calarians began to understand that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently. Across known space, governments held emergency sessions. Military commanders studied the recordings of human weapons. Scientists tried to understand how the storm protocol was possible. Everyone reached the same conclusion. Humanity had been peaceful by choice, not necessity. War Prime Krulex found himself in command of the last intact Vorthak force. 37 ships hiding in the outer system, trying to avoid the Thundersoul's sensors. His officers were terrified. Half of them wanted to surrender. The other half wanted to run to the edge of the galaxy. War Prime, we could contact their government directly, offer full reparations for the colonies we destroyed, and admit that the Confederacy was wrong to attack them? Sir, the Confederacy no longer exists. Half our worlds have declared independence, rather than face human retaliation. The other half are demanding your removal from command. Krulex looked at his tactical displays. Where once he had commanded 300 ships and been the terror of lesser species, now he hid with a handful of survivors afraid to move. Sir, there's something else. Our long-range sensors have detected other human ships. Dozens of them, all heading toward Confederacy space. What kind of ships? Unknown design, sir. But if they're anything like the Thundersoul... Krulex closed his eyes. He had started this war thinking humans were weak prey. Now his entire species faced extinction because of his mistake. Open a channel to the human ship. Sir? I said open a channel. It's time to end this. The Thundersoul received the transmission while hunting the last Vorthak supply depot. Captain Han listened to War Prime Krulex's words without expression. Human Commander, I am War Prime Krulex of the Vorthak Confederacy. I wish to discuss terms of surrender. Han looked around his bridge. His crew was waiting to see how he would respond. The Thundersoul arrived at Vorthak Prime like a dark moon. The planet below was beautiful in the way that most inhabited worlds were beautiful. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents dotted with cities. 8 billion Vorthak lived on the surface, most of them civilians who had never even heard of humans until the war began. Captain Wu Jin Han stood on the bridge and looked down at the world that had sent killers to murder human children. Part of him wanted to activate the storm protocol and erase the entire planet. It would be justice, it would be final, and it would send a message that no species would ever forget, but it would also make him a monster. Sir, said Intelligence Officer Kyung-Soo Nam, we're receiving thousands of transmissions from the surface, surrender offers, peace proposals, requests for mercy. Any word from their government? The Confederacy Council has been dissolved, sir. The planet is under emergency civilian administration. They're asking for terms. Commander Mira Song looked up from her station. Sir, what are your intentions? Han was quiet for a long moment. Below them, 8 billion lives waited to see if humanity would choose mercy or vengeance. The choice would define what humans became in the galaxy. Open a channel to the planet. Channel open, sir. People of Vorthak Prime, this is Captain Wu Jin Han of the Earth vessel Thundersoul. Your military forces attacked human civilians without warning or cause. They killed 50,000 innocent people, including children. On the planet below, every communication device carried his words. Vorthak families gathered around their screens waiting to hear their fate. Your War Prime Krulex and his officers will be tried for war crimes. Your military fleet has been destroyed. Your government has fallen. You are now under human protection. Protection, whispered Commander Song. Han continued his broadcast. The species that chose to make war on humans will now learn what human peace actually means. You will be relocated to suitable worlds under human supervision. You will rebuild your civilization under human law. And you will never again threaten any innocent species, he paused. This is not negotiable, but it is mercy. More mercy than you showed our children. The channel closed. On the planet below, 8 billion Vorthak began to understand that their world had changed forever. 6 months later, Ambassador Yoon Ji-shin stood in the Grand Assembly of the Elder Council. The massive chamber held representatives from 200 species. All of them were staring at her with a mixture of fear and respect. The question before this assembly, said Speaker Mithros, is how to integrate humanity into the existing galactic order. Yoon-ji smiled politely. Speaker Mithros, I believe you misunderstand the situation. Humanity is not seeking to integrate into the existing order. We are announcing the new order. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representative after representative stood to protest. Humans were newcomers to galactic politics. They had no right to dictate terms to ancient civilizations. Yoon-ji waited for the noise to die down. When it was quiet again, she activated a holographic display. The image showed the Thundersoul battleship floating in space near the council station. This is the Thundersoul. It is currently in orbit around this station. Its weapons are powered down, but they remain operational. Are you threatening this assembly? Demanded the Kildarian representative. No. I am explaining reality. Yoon-ji touched a control, and the display changed. Now it showed the empty space where the Vorthak fleet had been destroyed. The Vorthak Confederacy believed they could attack human civilians without consequences. They learned otherwise. She changed the image again. This time it showed Vorthak refugees being relocated to supervised worlds. Their survivors now live under human protection. They are fed, housed, and safe. But they are also watched. They will never again have the opportunity to threaten innocent lives. What does humanity want from the rest of us? Asked Speaker Mithros. Simple. Human space is inviolate. Any attack on human civilians will result in immediate and total retaliation. In exchange, humanity will respect the sovereignty of all peaceful species. And if we refuse these terms? Yoon-ji looked around the chamber. Then you can ask the Vorthak what refusal means. Oh wait, you can't. Their government no longer exists. The assembly was silent. Outside, the Thundersoul waited like a sleeping predator. Fleet Admiral Min Ho-chae took command of the expanded human fleet from his flagship, the New Harmony. Unlike the Thundersoul, it was a ship built for peacetime. Diplomatic missions, humanitarian aid, trade protection. But even the New Harmony carried weapons that could level cities. Admiral, reported his aide, we've received requests for human protection from 12 species in the past month. What kind of protection? The usual. Pirates, territorial disputes, aggressive neighbors. They want human ships to patrol their space. And our response? We provide protection in exchange for favorable trade agreements and diplomatic recognition of our territorial claims. Minho nodded. It was a good arrangement. Humanity got what it wanted through the threat of force rather than the use of it. Much more efficient than actually fighting wars. Any word from the Thundersoul? Captain Han is still refusing promotion and transfer orders. He says his job isn't finished. What job? The Vorthak are defeated. Unknown, sir. He won't explain. The Thundersoul patrolled the edge of human space like a guard dog. Captain Han had reduced his crew to a skeleton team of volunteers. Commander Song had transferred to a regular fleet assignment. Most of the original crew had requested new postings after the war ended. Only the core group remained. Han himself, Boram Yoon, Yejin Lim, and Kyung-soo Nam. They called themselves the Watchers. Their job was to make sure no one forgot what happened when humans were threatened. Sir, said Kyung-soo, we're receiving a distress call from the new Shanghai colony. They report unknown ships in their system. Identification? Unknown species. Sir, they're calling themselves the hegemony of Rix. Han looked at the tactical display. Another aggressive species looking for easy prey. They probably had no idea what had happened to the Vorthak. Set course for New Shanghai. Best speed. Yes, sir. The Thunder Soul jumped to faster than light speed. Across the galaxy, automated systems detected the massive energy signature and updated their tracking databases. Governments that monitored human fleet movements noted the Thunder Soul's destination and began preparing formal statements of non-involvement. The hegemony of Rix had never heard of humans. They were a young species, aggressive and expanding rapidly. When their scouts found the New Shanghai colony, they saw easy conquest. A single world, lightly defended, far from any major fleet bases. Their attack fleet was smaller than the Vorthak force had been, only 20 ships, but they approached the human colony with the same arrogance that had doomed their predecessors. Human settlement, this is Fleet Commander Zix of the hegemony of Rix. You will surrender your world immediately or face destruction. The colonial governor, Park Sung-min, had been warned about the approaching alien fleet. He also knew about the Thunder Soul. His response was calm and confident. Rix vessels, this is Governor Park of New Shanghai. You are hereby ordered to leave human space immediately. This is your only warning. Commander Zix laughed. Human, you are in no position to give orders. Surrender or die. As you wish. The Thunder Soul appeared. Commander Zix had perhaps 3 seconds to register the massive human warship before his fleet ceased to exist. 20 ships became expanding clouds of plasma. The engagement lasted longer than usual because Captain Han chose to destroy them one by one rather than using area weapons. He wanted the galaxy to see exactly what happened to species that threatened humans. New Shanghai, this is Captain Han. The pest problem has been resolved. Thank you, Thunder Soul. Governor Park sends his regards. The Thunder Soul vanished back into faster-than-light travel. Behind it, 20 expanding debris clouds marked where another species had learned the lesson too late. News of the Rix fleet's destruction spread even faster than the Vorthak incident had. This time, there was no disbelief. The pattern was clear. Humans had moved beyond peace into something else entirely. Species that had been planning their own expansion into human space quietly canceled those plans. Trade routes that had been encroaching on human territory were rerouted. Governments that had been ignoring human diplomatic messages suddenly became very responsive. Dr. Hana Kim worked at the Galactic Studies Institute on Earth. Her job was to monitor alien reactions to human policies. The data she collected painted a clear picture. Admiral Lee, sir, I think you should see this report. Jinwoo Lee took the data pad and read through Dr. Kim's findings. Charts showed alien fleet movements, trade patterns, and diplomatic communications. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. They're afraid of us. Yes, sir. Not just wary or respectful, actually afraid. Several species have relocated their home fleets specifically to avoid human patrol routes. The Zalarian Empire canceled a century-old expansion plan because it would bring them within 50 light-years of human space. Good. Fear will keep them honest. Sir, there's something else. We're detecting significant military buildups in remote systems. Species that were previously peaceful are suddenly building warships. Against each other? We don't think so, sir. The pattern suggests they're preparing for the possibility of human expansion. Admiral L.